long as I can. Whoa.
We can play this whenever we
Record
talk
scratch. Switch it up.
Jump. Huh. Jump.
All right.
That was good. That was awesome.
Let's get the vibes. Right. We're back.
Even though
All right, folks at home, your three favorite boys are back. It's Cole, editor-in-chief of the Daily Egyptian.
Woo!
Joey Bernard, graduate assistant for the Daily Egyptian, and Jay Cruz. He's just a guy. Just kidding. He's an athlete. He's got the ins and outs of the athletics department, and I believe newly appointed men's and women's golf SID for Southern Illinois University. So anybody who has any inquiries,
and track and field.
hit this guy. And track and field?
Yeah, I told you.
You're
about
kidding
this.
me.
He didn't remember, but I did tell him about it.
Yeah, he probably did. But, you know, I'm a global man.
Congratulations.
Congratulations
Thank
to
you.
Jay Cruz.
A graduated man as well.
That too.
It is winter time.
It is.
And we came up with this great idea to put some snowflakes behind us as well. I don't know if people can tell, but
right.
we're looking real nice in here.
There's some here, you know.
This was us, guys.
We're looking real nice in here. So we've upgraded in a lot of different ways. Advanced, one might say.
Mm-hmm.
You know who hasn't
this thing
advanced,
just
though?
keeps on getting better. What do you say? Who hasn't advanced?
You know who hasn't advanced? Should we just start over?
It's been rough. No, we're staying with
okay.
it. We're staying with
First
it.
one back. We've had a long break.
We might have to cut a lot of it, but
It's okay.
So if it's shorter than you'd think, you say, "Where's that part?" That's why. So we have men's basketball. Joey
getting
B,
dunked on.
You're getting dunked on. Tell us how the team's been doing.
Well, it's ironic that you're dunking on me because, like, the NFL picks, I've been kind of dunking on
Yeah,
you
yeah.
lately,
Listen,
so
we're not
I-
talking
Save it
about
for the
We'll
show.
save it for
Save
later.
it for
We'll
the
save it for
show.
later. Men's basketball. The game last night against Bradley. Oh, my goodness. We had a 23-point lead
I believe that was the
at one point and blew it. My goodness. You cannot do that. You just can't do that against Bradley, who is a program that I mean, this is a team that I think they had the higher expectations, at least top 3, 4 in the conference.
They were the 1 seed in the conference tournament.
When you
last
have a
year.
lead like that against a team that's that good, I mean, you got to keep putting on the gas.
And they've been. I want to make things clear. They haven't been great this year. Like they
Yeah,
had a
right.
steep kind of decline.
That's true.
But boy, I mean, we handed them that one.
Absolutely.
Handed it to them.
I think teams are starting to figure out that we rely way too much on X, Xavier Johnson, who is still one of the leaders in all of Division I basketball and scoring. That just it's a real problem trying to close out some of these games. I mean, later in the game, I don't know if this was a huge problem for X, but he was bleeding on his left knee too. It didn't really seem like it was bothering him, but players don't like to show some of these injuries and how it might affect them, so I don't really know. But shooting-wise, we didn't do too well in the second half. We went 1 for 7 on threes, and considering we were shooting 50% for threes in the first half, the shots just weren't going down either. So, I mean, for some reason, we just couldn't match Bradley's tempo. I don't know if we were just straight up gassed late in that second half, but we knew they were going to have to go at a higher tempo, and we still couldn't stop them. So, we got another tough opponent here coming up against you and I on, was that Saturday or Sunday? Did we have you? Saturday. So that'll be another tough matchup that hopefully we can try to get some momentum back up after a really demoralizing loss against Bradley.
Absolutely. And so, Jay Cruz, I want to pose the question to you. This has been the story of Brian Mullins during his time at SIU. Can he get over the hump? I mean, we don't beat good teams. When have we ever upset a team? When has one of those things ever kind of happened? I mean, I liked a lot of the stuff in the first half, what we saw. I mean, we were knocking down threes. A.J. Ferguson is kind of getting healthier, and I think he's going to become a bigger part of the offense. I like the scoring that he can do alongside of Xavier. But, man, 24-point lead goes away like that. And then I look up at the scoreboard, as we were all at the game last night, and there's 11 minutes left, and I go, it's an 8-point game. Like, this could become a game, and it did, and we ended up losing it. How does that even happen?
Well, I think it's two things, and Joey referred to the first thing, which is the jig is completely up offensively, and I would like to see more of A.J. Ferguson. That's a great pull by you mentioning him, because since he has come back from his injury, he's been playing so well. Mm-hmm. But then on the defensive end, 70% in even like a 10-minute stretch for a team to shoot like that is crazy. To shoot like that for an entire half is an indictment on your defense. And heading into the night, I was looking at Bradley just taking warm-ups, and I thought we matched it pretty well against them, because remember last year they had Rick Mast, who is now killing it at Nebraska, by the way, who was a pretty good team themselves. And they don't have him anymore. They don't really have that dominant big. And we've seen Scotty have flashes at times, but I'd say he's still a little bit raw, right? Absolutely. And Clarence, he doesn't have the size, but he has a lot of the skill. So we have to trade off a lot of different things on the offensive end. But I thought we could take advantage of Bradley in that sense, and we didn't, and we couldn't, unfortunately. And you mentioned, is this an indictment on the Brian Mullins era? I think one thing that's important to remember is, where was this team projected to finish at the start of the season? Do you guys remember?
I believe it was
8th, 7th.
I think they were 9th, actually.
9th.
Wow. I think they were 9th. The women's team was 8th, and the men's basketball team was 9th. So the fact that we're having this conversation about, now we lost our grip on contending for first place potentially, which is not actually true. We're only 4-3. Every team in the Valley has a loss at this point. The fact that we're talking about that now, I think, is a good thing, and it's a testament to what Brian Mullins has done so far this season. And I do think he is trying to craft different ways to score, getting the ball in as many guys' hands as possible.
I liked some of the sets we had last night.
Yes, some of the sets were really, really good last night.
In my tenure, while I've been here, they have not been the most creative. We had some interesting sets at the end of that game that I was proud of.
You can tell that he is trying to get the ball in everyone else's hands, but in the last 6-7 minutes of that game, Xavier just wasn't in Superman mode, and you can't really expect that from him every single night. On that last step back, though, he got space, and I thought he was gonna knock it down. It's one of the rare times where he just hasn't come through, and again, that's not his fault. He's practically carried us to this point. So.
Absolutely.
Trent Brown, he's been kind of a stud this year.
He has been playing really well defensively too. He went up against a couple of Bradley's bigs last night. Played really well against them. I've been really impressed from what I've seen.
I've loved him so far this year.
Yeah,
most definitely. So as we mentioned, right now they stand at 12-6. They're 4-3 in the Missouri Valley, as he's put here, tied for 5th, and they have a game against Bowen Bourne and that UNI-led team on Saturday, and then we play Valpo on Wednesday. We should hopefully expect a win against Valpo. Valparaiso's athletics have not been top tier for almost anything, and so hopefully we can get back on our feet, even if we fall to Northern Iowa. Let's move on to women's basketball, where I'm shooting over Jay Cruz. That was a bad segment. That was a bad one.
I tried to do you up.
They also happened to lose to Bradley in a close one recently.
Yeah, they did.
And so they are 1-5 in their last 6. Jay Cruz, what's going on?
It's been a bad last couple of weeks for Saluki Basketball. I think it's just more of the same for this women's team. Again, we're in the early stages of a building program. It wasn't going to happen in 1, 2, maybe even 3 years. It's just about personnel really at this point. And with their fast style of play that we've talked at length about, you're going to let up some offense. That's just what's going to happen, right? We've talked about Iowa basketball, how their team was for so many years, scoring 90 but also letting up 80. And when you don't have a good shooting night, there's a really good chance you're going to lose that game regardless of who you're playing to. That one win that we did get against Valpo, we got really cold in the second half, and we let them, and like you said, they are not by any means a fantastic basketball team, but they did come back, and they found their source of offense toward the end of the game. They went to this one three-point shooter that I believe made like 4 threes in the fourth quarter. So they found a way to make it a little bit close, but we were ahead by so much that it didn't really matter. This week, Indiana State and Evansville, 2 teams, 5-10, 2-14. I expect 2 wins there. I think it would be stupid to expect anything else. And we should start to raise the bar a little bit for this team as the year goes on, given that so many of them were here last year. They know the system. They know the way that Kelly Bond White wants this team to be run. It's just about execution now.
Right. Now, before I swing the rock to Joey B.
I love the animations here.
Right?
This is great.
Beautiful.
Before I swing the rock,
we're a team.
I think the one thing that this team is missing is a truly elite point guard. Imagine we had somebody, not to say that,
Q Love.
Yes, but I'm forgetting her last name right now.
Jade
Sequoia.
Mason. Sequoia Allman.
Sequoia Allman. That's what her last name
Yes.
is. Sequoia Allman, Jade Mason, and Q Love aren't good point guards because they are. But Jade Mason's more of a scoring threat, right? So same goes for Sequoia Allman. Q Love, very, very good defensive, but I want somebody who can pass the ball at an elite level. If we could recruit that somehow with Kelly Bond White, whether we get it in the transfer portal or, as a high schooler coming in, I think that would truly put this team over the edge. I mean, imagine feeding Lanaya Randall down low. Like, we have a lot of pieces. We're just missing that glue. Joy B, would you maybe second that idea if I swing the rock to you?
No, absolutely. And I kind of thought Tierney Brown would have been a good suitor for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know me. I'm not the greatest basketball guy. I'm not quite sure if she would have been a great point guard or more of a center, that's always underneath the rim.
Right.
But, I mean, Lanaya Randall, she's carrying her weight, at least offensively, and getting as many boards as she possibly can. So she's impressed this year so far. Just going back to Lanaya, did any of us really expect her to become like this star for the team this season? Because she wasn't really. You did.
You did? I just don't remember.
Rewind the clips. The folks at home who listen.
Go back and watch.
I have been buying Lanaya Randall stock since not 2 years ago, but last year, sophomore year. If you check the tapes, I guarantee you, I was like, and I really like Lanaya Randall. I expect her to emerge at some point during her career. I think she plays the game the right way. She uses her body in such a good way in terms of creating space. I've always been the biggest Lanaya Randall fan. So I don't want to put myself in there, but
this is just something I just didn't expect out of her to become one of these stars.
It has been kind of meteoric in a way. Like last year, she was a glue guy, or glue woman, whatever, whatever you want to use the term is. She was a very, very effective ball player. But this year, you're absolutely right. I mean, she's carrying the majority of the offensive load. And with Jaden Mason being, some nights she looks like Sabrina Ionesco, and then some nights, she's missing almost everything. So it's kind of one of those things with the team, I think.
And some other girls on this team, Shamira Williams, Sierra Hughes.
I'm a big Shamira Williams fan.
I'd love to see more play time out of these girls in the next coming games, but I guess we'll just have to see once we get a couple more games on the schedule against teams where we think we can beat them.
Absolutely. And so I believe these are played at home. Is that correct? Can you guys second that? Because I think
yes, they are.
I was going to say
home,
right.
Yes.
And so I'll be looking forward to watching those games. And so that is it for us with Dogs of the Vet. And now me and Jay Cruz are going to talk about a very, very not disappointing. Disappointing finish to the college football season.
Maybe a little bit of basketball talk as well.
And I can't wait for that.
Let's do it.
You folks at home aren't ready. Jay Cruz, let's talk a little bit about college football, shall we? First, it's important to mention, I had high hopes for Texas, Jay Cruz.
You did have, we had hopes for
we
Texas.
Had really high hopes
from the
for
beginning.
Texas.
I was trying to come with you on this Texas ride. And it was a good ride. I mean, we made it to a place that not even you thought we would get to.
That's true.
Correct?
That is 100% true, and we'll be looking at that in just a little bit, you little scoundrel.
That we will. What are you doing, dude? Come on.
So, yeah, Texas obviously ends up losing to Washington. And then, do you want to cut that out?
No, keep going.
Okay. So Texas ends up losing to Washington.
Yeah.
Which, that game, were you able to watch?
Yes. Yeah, I was.
Heartbreaking.
Very heartbreaking.
Very, very weird loophole rule where we injure Dylan Johnson, right? We're down by 7. The game's over. But wait. Oh, the clock stops because of an injury timeout from Washington. Okay, now we have time. Get the ball. Immediate bomb to Jordan Whittington. 40 yards.
Awesome.
Oh, my gosh.
Amazing.
We're here. Throw it to Adonai Mitchell. We're within the red zone. We get to the red zone.
Oh.
And then just 3, and I love my man Steve, but not the greatest play calls. Specifically the one that really made me mad was 2nd down. And it wasn't a run, but it was like it's a fake handoff into a screen for Jadon Blue. Mm-hmm. But Jabbar Muhammad, one of the best cornerbacks in the country, reads it perfectly and tackles him out of bounds. So we get absolutely nothing on that play, but we waste 5 seconds. It was stuff like that that really just disappointed me. It would have been, because I was out. I was down. I was like, the whole game, Washington dominated. Michael Penix looked like, he looked like Patrick Mahomes in college football form. And then all of a sudden we have hope. And then it trickled away. It was a bad night for me. The Bama-Michigan game was also a good one.
Fantastic.
Probably better overall than the Texas-Washington game.
The ending was, but I'd say from the first snap of the game until like the third to last, the Washington-Texas game was way more entertaining from that standpoint.
That's probably,
But again, the finish was better. The stakes obviously a little bit higher given the branding of those two programs. So.
Absolutely. And so, Michigan stops Alabama after awful snap from, I think, was it Seth McLaughlin?
Seth McLaughlin.
Who just...
A Buckeye, by the way.
Just an awful Buckeye.
He is a Buckeye, though.
He was terrible during the whole season. He couldn't snap a football.
Hopefully he plays left guard.
If you move him to guard, he's obviously a lot better. But center, oof.
That was rough.
Very, very rough. And then Michigan goes on to win the national championship. So the first question is, Jay Cruz, is there any part of you that's maybe a little bit happy for Michigan? Because I've personally been of the belief that, one, if Michigan was going to win a title, it would be this year. And two, Jim Harbaugh's probably headed to the NFL. Is there any part of you that's like, all right, they kind of earned it. Like, if there was one team, if you take away the logo, right, and just make it college football team A, B, C, and D, and you keep the storylines, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I kind of think I don't think Michigan wins another title in another 20 years.
No.
And I think this was their time to do it, and so I'm happy for them. Texas, I think we're in a great position. I don't think they'll win the title next year.
Completely fine.
But I think we'll win one of the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Same might go for Bama. Probably not because of obviously the news of Nick Saban.
We'll see.
And then, Washington, they're not going to get back here for a long while, I don't believe.
Probably not. Although, did you see who their new coach is?
Jed Fish,
who, I've said this a couple times, if Arizona was in a 12-team playoff, they would have made some noise. They were a legitimately good team, and they were bringing back most of their roster. If Jed Fish stayed, now that he's gone, I'm sure there are going to be some guys that follow him to Washington. But
I don't know. But have you seen, Arizona is not happy about it. We're getting off topic. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Point is, I asked you that question. Do you think, I'm kind of happy for Michigan in a way.
I am absolutely not happy for Michigan in any way, shape, or form. Michigan cheated. We all know this. It's not a hot take. And did you see, by the way, when there's all Jim Harbaugh contract talks? Because each of the last two off seasons, when he's flirted with it, he ends up coming back to the college, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found it interesting. I don't know if you saw. There was a report that if he comes back to Michigan, they basically said, you cannot fire me if I come back to Michigan. And obviously there's this investigation going on.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously did something. They cheated. And it's like, if you actually, and he also said, in the press conference after the Washington game, I think we're completely innocent. Then why are you asking for this clause to not be fired for cause or whatever? Everyone knows what's going on there. So no, I have no happiness in my heart for Michigan, not at all. The only ounce of, I guess non-anger, I don't know how to describe it, is for my brother, who is a Michigan fan, and a couple other people I know who are Michigan fans who believe all this stuff and are worshiping Connor Stallions, which I think is the weirdest thing in the world, how Michigan fans are worshiping this guy.
Right.
Even though, but they didn't cheat, though. That's what they tell you, is they didn't cheat, and yet they worship this guy. So, whatever. Anyway, shout out to my brother. Shout out to every other Michigan fan I know who I respect. But no, zero happiness in my heart for them. Now, I wouldn't have wanted Bama to win it either. If they had beaten Michigan, I would have rooted for Washington or Texas, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no happiness in my heart for anyone associated with the University of Michigan at all.
Okay, so we're gonna do a little game here. We're gonna rapid fire.
Okay.
Very quickly, because there's been a lot of college football news that has dropped.
Yes, there has.
Very, very recently.
Yes.
And so here's some things I want to throw at you. One, just because I made you talk about Michigan,
sure,
we're going to talk about Ohio State and how busy they've gotten, not only in recruiting, but also in the transfer portal. Tell me your thoughts as an Ohio State fan.
I mean, this is a completely new Ryan Day, no? I mean, I know how I feel. I'm more interested just to see how you feel about what Ryan Day has done, because I obviously feel like he's done an incredible job so far in this offseason. Quinshon Judkins, Will Howard, maybe Caleb Downs, maybe Caden Proctor from Alabama, given the Nick Saban news, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about in a second. Mm-hmm. He's doing an excellent job, and I think he had to. Anything other than this, and he would just be seen as a guy who's just kind of just fiddling around, and he's fine with going 11-1. And if they sneak in the playoff, great. But no, he understands that he has not completed his goal each of the last 3 seasons, regardless of whatever Michigan was doing. It's not like we really deserve to win those games anyway, and he's stepped it up, at least so far in this offseason. We'll see what happens when we get to the 2024 year, which I'm already excited for. But yeah, Ryan Day's done an incredible job, and I think he's changing the culture there, changing the standard. And shout out to all the guys who came back too, because I really do think, and this is why I say
that's what's huge. I mean, the transfers you've got. I mean, Quinshon Judkins is a stud. You're probably going to get Caleb Downs, who is electric. But not only that, Egbuka comes back, Travion Henderson comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, you have an abundance of riches.
I mean, if we don't win the national championship next year, that will be the biggest disappointment of all time. I mean, this roster is going to be one of the best, if not maybe the best in college football history, given all the talent that stayed for that senior year. They have no reason not to win the Natty next year. I'm just going to go ahead and say that they're going to win the Natty next year. I'm going to book it. I'm going to be saying it all summer, obviously barring an injury, of course.
You know who the only team that I could really – you know what I think the national championship is next year?
Texas, Ohio State.
Which
would be amazing.
That would be the best thing for the pod maybe ever.
I really wanted it this year.
Right.
But unfortunately we didn't get there. Both teams kind of screwed that up. But
yeah,
I'm really happy with what Ryan Day's done.
Absolutely, and I understand that. I think at the very least they have to beat Michigan. And people aren't talking about this a lot. J.J. McCarthy's gone for the draft.
They're losing a lot of players next year.
And the transfer portal, all the good QBs are soaked up. Yep. I mean, who's Michigan going to have? Alex Orji?
He's a good runner, I think.
He's a good runner. He can't throw the ball more than 5 yards.
No.
You know who I would have really would have liked, but he's already committed somewhere? Is Grayson McCall.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of a Michigan. He seems exactly like a Michigan quarterback, but he's already going to NC State.
Yeah.
So it looks like their option is probably Will Rogers, who is committed to Washington.
Yeah.
Okay, next. We got to make this more rapid. Nick Saban, the greatest coach of all time.
Bar none.
Bar none. Urban Meyer's great. Bar none. Nick Saban wins. He retires, man. Yeah. Your reaction?
There are very few coaches, very few programs where I could say what I'm about to say right now. You're a fan of one of them, by the way. Programs that when their greatest coach of all time leaves, they cease to exist as that program anymore. I think you already know where I'm heading with the Duke basketball thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, with Coach K gone, Duke just they could still be a really good team. They're just not Duke, right?
Right.
With Saban gone, Bama's going to cease to be Bama for a while. And people may not know this about Alabama, but there was a long stretch where they were just another team after Bear Bryant left back in, the 60s or 70s. I mean, they went a long time without being elite ever again. It was basically till Saban got there. I think they had maybe 1 or 2 national titles mixed in there, but they went a long time without being this perennially great program. And Kalen DeBoer is a great coach, SIU guy, by the way. Mm-hmm. But will he be Nick Saban again? That's a tough act to follow. So no, I don't think he will, but I still think they'll be pretty good.
I think he is a great hire, and if I were Alabama, I'd stick it out.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, he's gonna upset fans. They might lose 3 games next year. He's losing Caleb Downs and Caden Proctor. He's losing all these recruits.
Yep.
It's gonna be a rough year. SEC is gonna be good. A lot of teams are reloading. Texas and Oklahoma are joining. But I still think that's an Alabama squad. They're good.
Yeah.
I think Kalen DeBoer is a great hire, and they need to stick by him. Because I'm really what's going to happen is they're not going to go 12-0 and win national titles in the first 2 years, and it's going to be a giant problem. But maybe because everybody's talking about it, it's going to be easier. I think Nick Saban did something for me, and you kind of had your blanket statement. My personal blanket statement about Nick Saban is it is very rarely that you dominate the sport like he has. I'm an underdog guy through and through. And a lot of people are underdog guys.
The Duke fan, underdog guy.
Okay, fair point. But still, I don't root for the number 1 seed in almost anything aside from Duke.
Okay.
Like, I get that.
Sure.
But we don't even have to get into that.
Yeah.
I have personal ties, not really, but anyways, my point is Nick Saban was one of the most likable.
Yeah.
Like, has so many great lessons, and they were reposting him all over Twitter about his lesson on leadership, on winning, on success, he never had something. He's almost like the LeBron of college football. Like when he said something. Now, granted, I don't view it this way. Me and you feel differently about LeBron, but you know that the whole talk around LeBron is he's never done anything bad. That's how I actually feel about Nick Saban.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
Where I think Nick Saban was very, very good for the sport. He was the voice of the sport. Do you think it was NIL and transfer portal? Because it's got to be so hard to be a college coach now.
Yeah, it was either that or you did hear there's maybe a rumor that his wife isn't doing very well. I mean, the man is 70 years old, for goodness sakes.
Too.
I think age also had a thing to do with it. He did an interview like the day that it happened, or maybe the day before, and they posted it after that I haven't watched yet, which is probably bad journalism by me, but I will watch that pretty soon because, like you, I love hearing him talk about a lot of different things, not just leadership in football, but just about being a human being and whatnot. So yeah, he's a great guy. Again, in terms of what made him leave, I think it's a combination of everything.
Right. And then my final thing for you is give me your top 4 AP poll for your preseason, way too early AP poll for next year.
Number 1, Ohio State.
Really?
Gap.
Okay. Okay, all right. You haven't gotten Caleb Downs yet, all right?
We don't need him for me to say that. Honestly, okay, Georgia 2. I need to pull up a list. Ohio State, Georgia. I think you would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Looking at kind of the teams who are there now.
I'm gonna look because I have my 4, but I don't want to be wrong here.
This is Ole Miss is a team that. No! Don't laugh! I would have them in my top 4 heading to next year. They have destroyed it in the transfer portal.
They lost Quinshon Judkins.
But they got Logan Diggs. And they have Ulysses Bentley, who averaged more yards per carry last year than Quinshon Judkins. Fun fact. And obviously, Quinshon's a bug guy now, but that's just the truth. They have been killing it in the transfer portal.
In your top 4?
They got Walter Nolan in the transfer portal, the number 1 ranked transfer. They have killed it. They have reloaded their roster. Everybody's coming back.
In the top 4?
Yes, they would be a top 4 team for me next year, for sure.
I've met 6.
And I guess if you're asking me to throw in another one, I would probably say Oregon. Right? Or, does that sound right? Oregon? Yeah, I think Oregon would. Is Dante Moore officially going to be their starter next year?
Dylan Gabriel.
Oh, yeah, Dylan Gabriel,
Which is why...
Why did Dante Moore go there?
Why?
Dylan Gabriel, yeah. I don't know.
The Spencer Sanders rule. I'm looking at you, Dante.
Sanders rule,
I'm looking at you, Dante. Why would you go somewhere where you know you're going to sit when you had a guaranteed starting job?
I can't believe Dylan Gabriel's still in college, first off.
Well, that's a whole thing that I don't even want to get into.
Think about how many teams this year, by the way, you mentioned the Spencer Sanders rule, would have been better with Spencer Sanders as their quarterback as opposed to whoever was there.
Right.
And I thought when he transferred there, I'm like, oh, he must be going there because he thinks he's going to win the job.
And then he was 3rd.
Did he even play?
No.
I don't remember him ever
Never
taking
played
a snap.
It was Jackson Dart, and then they
Walker
had
Howard.
That's who it is. Yeah. Some other really good
who will be their quarterback after Dart leaves.
Yeah.
So,
what?
Yeah, wild.
Why?
I don't know, man.
It doesn't make sense. Point is, I'm thinking my top 4 that I would go with is probably Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas.
Okay. Yeah, Texas is another good one, too. They've got a couple of nice transfer receivers.
They got a lot. Isaiah Bond. Jonte Cook is coming in.
Another really good
we might
one.
Get Ryan Williams, who decommitted from Alabama. I mean, we're just getting all the Alabama guys as of right now.
Right, yeah.
It's me and you
Basically,
are trading off the
transfer
Alabama
portal
guys.
kings with Ole Miss.
Right.
By the way, do you know who ranks 2nd in transfer portal class?
Colorado?
Texas A&M. As weird as that sounds, even though they've lost everyone, I guess Mike Elko's brought a bunch of his guys too, but I don't really know how much.
I just don't think.
I don't know.
I think Texas A&M fans
anyway,
have a vision of what
we're not
going to
turn this into a Texas A&M segment.
We are not.
Let's move on.
It's your turn.
To me.
It's your turn.
And I have a question, not really a question for you, but I wanted to go back and look at your predictions before the season started.
Mm-hmm.
You had Georgia number 1 in your playoff. Not a bad pick, and you can't really be ashamed of that.
They might have won the national title if they didn't lose to Bama.
110%. Michigan number 2, a good pick. Another team that I think you predicted them to win it all too.
I did.
As well.
I did predict them to win.
You did have Clemson at 3, and you and I were both on them at the beginning of the season. I think we both thought they were going to have a little bit of a bounce back. I think Garrett Riley had a lot to do with that. Him coming in to be the OC.
Right. But it's over. I mean,
it's
real
over.
quick.
No, they're done.
Clemson's done.
They're done.
It's over.
Totally. Washington at number 4, a great selection.
I called it, folks.
An amazing selection.
They didn't believe in me.
So he did get 2 of the 4. Got to credit him there, and if Georgia would have beaten Bama, he would have gotten 3. Now, your Heisman list. You had 3 players on your Heisman list.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, again, spot on with Michael Penix Jr. You could argue that he may have been the best pure quarterback in college this year, but obviously Jaden Daniels, given his stats, given the way that he basically just carried his team, every single week, he was amazing. Quinn Ewers was never really that close, had some injury issues as well.
Right.
Brock Bowers, another guy who was really, really good, but injuries, and he just didn't really have the season that people would expect from a Travis Kelce-like tight end. And
right.
He'll be probably immediately a top 5 tight end in the NFL the minute he gets drafted.
Can I give up my hot take real quick before we go on to our next thing? Brock Bowers, not going to be a big NFL guy.
Really?
Not gonna. He is small. He's a small tight end.
Yeah.
He's a good receiver.
Yeah, but
he's a great receiver. But when you got to start blocking Nick Bosa on the edge and helping out, I mean, I think people are going to be shocked at how low Brock Bowers goes in the draft.
Interesting. How low were you thinking? Like
I would not touch Brock Bowers until the 18th pick, and that's me.
Wow.
Which means teams won't touch him until the 12th pick.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So,
now getting into a sport that I don't know when the last time we talked about this was. Maybe it was last year. Maybe have we brought it up? Maybe we haven't
brought it up yet. We've been thinking about it for a long time. But college football ramped up, folks.
Yeah, we've held the basketball. It was a great college football season too, by the way. Let's put a bow on this.
Yes.
Incredible college football season.
Yes. Say goodbye,
Absolutely,
everybody at home. Look at your screen.
This is us.
And wave goodbye at college football because we're sad. 1, that Texas lost, and 2, that it's all over.
Yeah. And by the way, Colt Daly, 41-20 with a CPP of 67.2. That is really, really good. And if you remember last year, not nearly as good, 29-24, roughly 55%. So shout out to Colt
10%
Daly.
increase, guys.
Destroyed it in college football picks this year. Another thing I think you're going to destroy right here because at your heart, at your core, you're a basketball guy.
I am.
Princeville's all-time leading scorer, by the way.
Not true.
Wait,
Not true.
Wait, so you lied.
I did not lie.
Okay.
I never said that. Folks, I never said that ever.
NBA question I have for Cole. National Basketball Association. For me, at least, I don't really get deep into it until the playoffs start because I believe that is the purest form of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
These 5 teams here are probably all going to be in the playoffs in some form or fashion, maybe a couple in the play-in, a couple near the top of the standings. Let's start in the Eastern Conference. Cole Daly, are these teams real or fake? I think this team embodies this question more than the others. It's the Indiana Pacers, the darlings of the in-season tournament, right? They made the championship, lost to the Lakers. You know, the kings of Mickey Mouse tournaments, the Lakers are. Are the Indiana Pacers real or fake? As of now, by the way, let me pull this up. They are sitting at number 7 in the standings, which means they would be in a play-in game against the Atlanta Hawks right now.
So essentially, I was actually confused, folks. He asked me this question in class, and I said, what do you mean real or fake? I thought this was one of those segments. You ever seen those TikTokers that are like, is this a real team?
To like their moms or their...
And I was like, these are all real teams. What are you talking about?
I mean in the sense
but now I understand.
A good or a bad team.
Let's
are
say,
they a legit playoff contender, or are they just a team that kind of has a good record but
I'll tell you
isn't
what,
actually that good?
I'm buying or selling these teams.
Okay,
I'll
buy
give
or
that to you
sell.
right there.
That's a better way to put it.
Indiana Pacers just traded for Pascal Siakam, one of the best power forwards. He's made All-NBA the past 2 years. Do I think he's a legit, takes your team to the next level kind of guy? In some regards, right? But he's not. They're not going to competing for a championship. This is a second-round exit team. They have incredible offense, awful defense. But because of Tyrese Halliburton and that team, they just got a lot of guys. I mean, depth is something that is very, very valued in this year's NBA. You know, back in the day, the big 3 with LeBron, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh, they could throw Jay Cruz on the freaking court and they'd win titles. That's not how it is anymore. You got to have everybody has to shoot, everybody has to be able to play defense, And because of that reason, I am buying the Indiana Pacers.
Next team, a team that I think is close to your heart in certain ways, is the Orlando Magic, led by
Paolo
Banchero, the number 1 pick from Duke. The Orlando Magic, they had a pretty good start to the year. They've kind of calmed down a little bit, but they sit one spot behind the Pacers in the number 8 spot, 22-19. Right now, they would be in a play-in game against our Chicago Bulls. We're not going to talk about them, don't worry.
Yeah.
They have been playing better lately, but we won't talk about them. Let's get you the Magic. Are they real or fake?
So here's the thing about
Or
the
buy or
Magic,
sell,
right?
whatever the segment's called.
They start the season awfully, right? And as somebody who was huge in the Magic to start the year, this was just a team that I was extremely disappointed. Then they go on this miraculous run. They win about 12 straight, or they win at least 12 out of the last 15. They go on a great, great run, and now they've kind of come down to earth. But they're still a legit team. They're a good team. I think they'll be at the top of the play-in by the time we get to the end of the season. Paolo Banchero has emerged. That guy is an all-star. Franz Wagner is a great player. Jalen Suggs has come into his own. If you have League Pass, by chance, watch Orlando Magic games. They're fun. They're the funnest games. Now, the thing that they're missing is they need a stretch 5, kind of big, like almost a Brook Lopez archetype, because Paolo gets to the cup, and he gets to the cup easy, but it makes it really, really hard when Wendell Carter's man shifts over and immediately makes it a double team. For this question, I'm going to almost change the altercation of it. If we're talking about this year, I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell while it's high. But if we're talking for the next 5 years, I'm buying as much stock in the Orlando Magic right now, because this is a team that is well put together, and just if they just keep on amassing shooters, this is going to be a dangerous team in a couple of years. Paolo has shown that he could be the best player in a championship-winning team.
Would you define this team as maybe winning too many games this year? Hurting their draft pick?
In all honesty, I'm going to say no, because I think that when you get to the point where you draft a lot of guys at the top of the lottery, now the Thunder are the perfect example of that, right?
Yeah.
They drafted at the top of the lottery almost every single year, but they picked certain positional guys that just fit their mold.
Yeah.
Just chef's kiss. I will go that far, right? But some teams, like the Magic team of old, they would just go willy-nilly. Mario Hezonja, Victor Oladipo. Two guys that play almost the exact same way. They don't play well together. I actually like them drafting more around the 10th through 16th spot in this year, because I think that really offers them the opportunity to get a specialist, right? You think about the Pelicans, which is a team that you already have on this list. They have a rookie right now in Jordan Hawkins. That one, the Magic should have drafted this draft. It actually made me very, very upset when they went ahead and drafted the Michigan player. Oh, it's Jet Howard.
Jet Howard.
He's become a nothing, and I don't think he's really going to emerge in the NBA. He's a good shooter, but if you had the opportunity to get Jordan Hawkins, boy, this team would be a whole lot different with him on his team. I am selling for the season, but I'm buying long term.
Team number 3, we're moving to the Western Conference now, and the difference between the Western Conference buy or sell teams is that they are actually at the top of the West. Minnesota Timberwolves are your 1 seed in the West, something I bet not too many people thought this season. 29-11, are they real or fake as the number 1 seed?
So this is interesting, because everybody that I listen to in sports media is buying the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. They're high on them. They have a great defense. Anthony Edwards is an emerging star. Karl-Anthony Towns has been there for a little bit. Rudy Gobert's a defensive anchor. So is Jaden McDaniels. Mike Conley's a veteran guard, right? They have a lot of really, really good pieces. But to be in all honesty, I'm going to stick with my gut here, and I'm selling. Because in all honesty, Anthony Edwards is inconsistent. Karl-Anthony Towns disappears in the playoff. Rudy Gobert, I'm not getting tricked by Rudy Gobert anymore. I'm not doing it. Until he proves me wrong, every single year we talk about how great of a defensive player he is. He's the defensive player of the year. And then all of a sudden, come playoff time, you can't put him out there because the corner threes are just too much. I think this team will get exposed come playoff time, and I don't think they're a true championship contender just quite yet. I think they have to trade Karl-Anthony Towns and get some other pieces in order to become that.
Next team, a team that you already referred to, the Oklahoma City Thunder. You complimented their draft strategy. Has that turned them into a legitimate championship team? Because right as of now, they sit as the number 2 seed. Excuse my computer. The number 2 seed in the Western Conference.
To be honest with you, I buy them more than I buy the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, here's the thing. say what you will about these emerging teams, but no matter what, the championship runs through Denver, right? They were the champions last year. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. And because of that, he's a big body. And the Timberwolves have big bodies to throw at him. Rudy Gobert is not a small individual. Neither is Karl-Anthony Towns. At every other position, I think the Oklahoma City Thunder are an elite force, right? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luguentz Dort, Josh Giddey. And these are guys that work together. I love teams like that. The Phoenix Suns of 2 years ago, who did end up losing to the Bucks, but it's a basketball team that works together. Here's the thing, though. Chet Holmgren's your big. And Chet Holmgren's good. But But Chet Holmgren does not work against Jokic. No. He barely even works against Rudy Gobert.
Right.
They're going to have to make a trade, and I think they do have the resources to do so. If they make that trade, I'm buying.
Yeah.
If they don't, unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to sell them for this season. But I think that they have a bright, bright future ahead.
Final team on the list. This is a team that I really like the way that they're constructed. Of course, they are dependent on one player playing or maybe not eating too much. It is the New Orleans Pelicans. You already know who I'm talking about. Are they real or fake? Are you buying or selling, Cole Daly?
I'm selling. And honestly,
really?
It very much surprised me that you said that you like the way this team is constructed because I have hated it for years.
Okay.
And the only other team that I feel this way about is the Chicago Bulls.
We don't need to get into that.
And to be honest with you, they have Brandon Ingram, who's a ball-dominant mid-range shooter, which doesn't – say what you will. He's a great player, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's not what you're looking for in today's game. Put him in 10 years ago, people start talking about him as one of the best. But it's just not the thing anymore. You have to – it's either shoot threes or get to the cup, which he does a good job at both of those things. But he's more of a mid-range creator. Then you have Zion Williamson, who's plugging the lane with Jonas Valanciunas. Get one of them out, at least. Get Jonas out. Yeah. I would obviously send him out. I think Zion, he's really had some shortcomings this year. People aren't surprised by him putting up 25 anymore. They have that expectation of more like 29, 30. And he was more athletic 3 years ago before the injury and sitting out all those years. We saw Point Zion. That was like a different breed. CJ McCollum isn't really a true point guard, in my opinion. I like Jordan Hawkins. I like all the players on their team. Jordan Hawkins is good. Herb Jones is good. I like Brandon Ingram, Zion, Jonas Valanciunas, CJ McCollum, Jose Alvarado. All those guys work. But do they work together? In my opinion, no. I'm selling heavy, and I think that in order for this team to really get over the hump, they're going to have to make a splash either this offseason or at the trade deadline to really put themselves over the edge.
It's going to be another great NBA playoff season. I mean, no matter who makes it, it's going to be really good because there are some really good teams, even in the play-ins, that are going to challenge the top seeds. So.
Absolutely. And the NBA is better than it's ever been. I mean, expansion needs to happen because there's almost too many guys sitting on the ends of the benches.
I agree. Let's move to college basketball. And Cole Daly, I want to say something right now. And Joey, I think you could get excited about this too. Do you realize that we are now under 2 months away from Selection Sunday? Think about that for a second. I mean, this year has gone by so quickly. We are almost in bracket season. Every single year I print out a bracket, and I have it in front of me, and I
do about 4.
I like to just stare at it as soon as I get it out. And hopefully the printer I use has color because I don't like looking at a black and white bracket. Like I need the NCAA logo and the Final Four logo, right? There are a few games I want to just put on everyone's radar to watch this weekend. We'll get into more detail about each, different teams next week. Alabama at Tennessee, number 6 Tennessee. Alabama is what I described as an enigma, in that
100%.
Their record is not as indicative of maybe how good they are. But with that being said, it's the same Alabama team that we've seen each of the last few years, where they play incredible offense. I mean, they're the number 1 offensive team on KenPom right now. They basically just shoot three-pointers and layups.
Yep.
And they shoot the three ball pretty well. Defensively, it looks like they're getting better, but again, they still have those games where they just let teams score 90, even close to 100 points on them. They are 8th total, like in terms of offense and defense combined. They are 8th in KenPom right now, but they're unranked in the AP poll. So the AP poll is probably especially in college basketball, it's useless. Completely useless. Don't use that as any sort of basis.
Don't use it in college basketball.
Look at like the KenPom rankings. Look at the net rankings. The net rankings are useful for looking at how good teams' wins actually are. KenPom is more of an X's and O's style of thing. Tennessee, on the other hand, they are ranked number 6. It's the team that nobody trusts in March. Every single year when Tennessee gets in the tournament, including last year when they somehow defeated Duke, everyone I know, including myself, was off of Tennessee, pick against them because they will mess it up eventually. The year before, they lost to Oregon State. Maybe it wasn't the year before. Either way, they lost to Oregon State.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah, so Tennessee, they haven't proven it in the tournament yet, but they are playing really, really good right now. And they have one of the more exciting players in the country, Dalton Connect. I feel like he could be an NBA guy.
I 100% agree. I've been on him since the beginning of the season after that game against UNC, where I was like, I'm wowed by this guy's size, athleticism. Yeah. I'm a big Dalton Canute guy. Connect guy.
It's not spelled like connect. It's spelled like K-N-E-C-H-T. Connect.
Super stupid, but he's a dog. He plays with a lot of grit. He's just a big body. Like when he dunks on you, man, like I feel like every poster he's had this season is like that Scottie Pippen dunk over.
Yes.
Where
was it Ewing?
Yes, it was Patrick Ewing, and he pushes him to the ground.
Yeah.
Like it's always tough as nails. I'm a big Dalton Connect guy.
Yeah. Tennessee's got their score, like we just mentioned, in Connect, and they've always been known to play defense. Maybe, just maybe, they've figured it out and can make a deep run in March. Next game I have, number 1, UConn. The national champions at number 1. That makes a lot of sense, right? Well, they didn't just get there because they've been winning. They got there because every team that's been ranked number 1 has been losing. Particularly the funniest one, of course, is the Purdue Boilermakers, who is seemingly every time they're ranked number 1, they drop a game on the road to either Northwestern or Nebraska. You think about that for a second. Purdue's last 3 losses are to Nebraska, who is a good team, Northwestern, and FDU. Those are Purdue's last 3 losses. That's just funny to think about. And they have wins against like Gonzaga and Kansas and a bunch of other great teams earlier in the season in the Maui Invitational. They did just get Donovan Clingan back as well. Is a very, very good big man for them. But they are playing at Villanova this week, and it just kind of would make sense for another number 1 team to lose here. Villanova is another enigma team like Alabama. They play up and down in their competition. They are very much a roller coaster this season. If they get in March, they seem like a team that could be dangerous.
Did you see that they've lost, and maybe this isn't still true, but they've lost to like every single Philadelphia team?
Yeah, they lost to St. Joe's. They lost to Temple. I think that's it. Yeah, St. Joe's and Temple. But yes, yeah.
And then they like
Penn. Did they lose to Penn?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
But then they'll beat like actually good schools.
I think they won at Creighton or something.
Yeah.
Like they went on the road. That was one of them. They're crazy. They could definitely beat UConn on Saturday, but I would probably pick UConn to win. I'm not going to pick these games. I'm just going to give them out because college basketball is the toughest sport to predict in the world, especially when you're in conference play. Last game, and this is honestly what I think is going to be maybe the best. I think Alabama-Tennessee will be the best game, but this is another one. It's also an SEC game. That conference has really turned it up this year. Ole Miss, number 22 Ole Miss. I don't know when the last time we've been able to say that is. And number 13 Auburn. Auburn, a team that I think is also disrespected by the polls. They are, by KenPom metrics at least, they're a top 5 team in the country. They play excellent offense, excellent defense. They have been beating the crap out of teams lately. Everyone in their path does not stand a chance. Double-digit victories here and there. Ole Miss, on the other hand, their coach.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect explanation you got written here.
Chris Beard, I wrote down, he's kind of the Hugh Freeze and it's weird he ends up at Ole Miss too.
Right.
He's an all-star coach, an incredible coach.
He might be the best of the past 5 years.
Not the greatest human being.
Not the greatest human being.
And that's been
for those who don't know at home, allegations of assault.
Potentially not the greatest human being.
Assaults on his wife and daughter.
Anyway, you can say the same about maybe Bruce Pearl too. I don't know.
But Bruce Pearl more cheating?
Yeah.
In regards to
Bruce Pearl's not like a criminal or anything.
Yeah, Chris Beard might be like an actual evil man.
Well, of course, everything is alleged, innocent until proven guilty. Right?
Well, I don't know. It might have.
Did he get proven?
We are not going to discuss
for another day.
Any sort of criminal charges or offenses.
We don't know anything, but we're just speculating. But another angle of this game that I think is pretty cool is Alan Flanagan, a guy who was at Auburn forever. I believe he was on the Final Four team, no?
He might have been like a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, he may have been a freshman that season.
But I always liked him.
He's on Ole Miss now. He's killing it. He's averaging, I believe, 15 or 16 points a game for them this year.
You know who else is on Ole Miss?
Who?
Jamin Brakefield, who was a Duke transfer.
Really?
Yeah, I actually really liked him, and I was really sad
Yeah.
when he decided to transfer.
Yeah, so say what you want about Chris Beard. Chris Beard, like I said, he is a really, really good coach. Has this Ole Miss team in the top 25. They're pretty much a surefire to make the NCAA tournament. I think at this point, and a win at Auburn, a team that I think is probably a top 10, 5-10 team in the country, would do wonders for them.
Wow, top 5 even maybe.
I think they're probably a top 10. 5
Really?
team. Depending on how. I mean, we'll see how the rest of the season
No,
goes.
of course.
I may have a
I'm
different
not calling
opinion
you
next
crazy.
I may have a different opinion next week. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. I think that to keep an eye on that game, if you do watch, keep your eyes on number 1, Aiden Holloway, who is a. Sorry, Joey's playing with his string back there. I thought he was telling us to wrap it up. Number 1, he's a guard, Aiden Holloway. He will probably get drafted in the first round. He's a really, really elite shot maker and a great passer. So be sure to check him out on Auburn.
Absolutely. That's all I got.
Guys, we got the NFL playoffs coming up next. Joey, get your butts over here. We got to talk about some football.
Welcome back. We're here to talk some NFL playoff edition here on the Inside Sports Podcast. I'm leading this segment. Jay Cruz was the one leading the segment for a long time now, but since he's got college football and basketball now, the boys wanted to hand it off to me, and I feel like I've earned the right a little bit at least, because we figured out just some stats here. I've been 26-10 in my past 36 picks.
Around there.
So it's been since November 1st, something like that. The past 3 months, I've just been on a tear. I will admit. I've surpassed Jay Cruz in picks, and he was our number 1 guy here for a long time now. These playoffs certainly helped me out too. And Thanksgiving we picked some games when we weren't having a podcast, and Christmas, that really helped me out. So I'm at 36-24. Jay Cruz is at 35-25. I'm at a 60% even percentage. Jay Cruz 58.3. We're neck and neck right there. It'll be an exciting finish these last couple games. And then Cole Daly's at 31-29.
We're all pretty
Still
close.
We're all above
50%.
500.
We're all
That
above
was the
500.
goal at the beginning of the season.
That's
To
exactly
all be above 50%, because then people can't say that we're losers.
Absolutely. We're not.
winners.
We are not losers on this podcast. We're winners
Absolutely right.
in the NFL. And I mean, you tore it up just like you talked about on college football. You tore it up
Exactly.
this year. So
Right.
there's nothing to be ashamed about here. We got an exciting couple of games here for the playoffs. I guess we'll just dive into the first game. Ravens and Texans. Texans coming off of a great win against the Browns. Me and Jay Cruz picked the Texans. It was kind of a last-minute discussion. We were, throwing back some texts. Cole Daly picked the Browns. That was a really.
I thought Flacco had it.
I was going to
thought
pick the
Flacco
Browns for a long time too.
Same, yeah.
But I realized how bad the Browns' defense was, and that kind of went back to bite them in the butt in this game against the Texans, who have a really hot offense right now. I'll start with Jay Cruz. Who are you picking in this exciting matchup of your guy C.J. Stroud and the probable MVP in Lamar Jackson?
I'm going to jump in. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
diving in. Because we had a very big discussion that I actually just thought of right now. This is a live reaction, folks.
All right.
Last year, there was a
I
certain
already know.
Eagles quarterback who was, wow, he's playing so good.
Marcus Mariota?
And after the season, we get to the point where these two very, very strongly believe that Jalen Hurts was a much better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. And I was like, I want to see more than one season of Jalen Hurts. And I just want to know, I don't even care if you guys think I'm wrong, because maybe I still am wrong. We've yet to see him play. But I just want to know, are you still of the opinion that Jalen Hurts is a lot better than Lamar?
Absolutely not. Lamar
No,
is
yeah.
Lamar is just a much mature quarterback than what he was before the season started. He's not like how do I put it? Like when he's running the football, he's running more as if he's not sprinting, I guess, if that makes sense. He's looking down the field. He's trying to make sure he knows that he's getting older and he needs to protect his body a bit more. And I think that's also coming into his passing game. He's a much mature passer as well. He's making decisions a lot better. it's doing dividends for this Baltimore team.
Would you say Lamar Jackson is better than Jalen Hurts?
I mean, yeah, I would. It's one of those things like QB top 10 or top 5 lists are really all dependent on, at least the way I think about it, is just what we've seen recently. And at the time that Joey and I made that statement, yeah, Jalen Hurts was the better quarterback than Lamar Jackson, but things have changed, clearly. Absolutely. And I think Hurts a little bit had to do with injury, and that team was just dysfunction junction the last 7 weeks of the season. I would put
like
that all on him.
Dysfunction junction?
Yeah, I think it's something that's a real thing. I don't know. I didn't just I didn't just pull that from my head.
Yeah.
But anyway, and Lamar has seemingly revived his career after the entire country, except for Cole Daly, apparently. We're pretty much out on him.
We had this discussion.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, apparently Cole Daly, I mean, you never really made it known the whole time, but you haven't said otherwise, so I guess I had no other reason not to believe you, so.
What do you mean? Maybe I didn't say it to the
like
podcast,
you were saying it,
but
like
we
like
had this
like
conversation.
you weren't getting on this podcast every single week and saying,
no,
I am a Lamar guy, I'm a Lamar guy.
No, you're correct.
Like,
yeah,
when it's inappropriate, you said it, but I guess I just hadn't remembered.
No,
Anyway,
right.
yeah, right now, Lamar's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, and maybe that will change next year. Maybe it won't. I mean, we can only go off what we see on the field. That's all I'd say.
How does that impact your pick?
So in this game, I'm having to pick between C.J. Stroud and Lamar Jackson, who in 2019 I drafted in the 16th round, the very last round of a fantasy draft. He won MVP that year. So Lamar's also my guy. I have a Lamar Jackson shirt at home, which is one more shirt than I have of C.J. Stroud. So who am I the bigger fan of? I don't know. But in this game, give me the Ravens. I love C.J. I just think that the mistakes the Browns made, the Ravens, particularly on the offensive end, with all those pick sixes, that's not going to happen from Lamar. I do love this Texans team. I feel the same way about this Texans team that you do about the Orlando Magic. They are just one or two key pieces away from being a Super Bowl contender. They have the quarterback. They have the offense. Now, maybe their OC might be gone after this year, but they've got the coach. They've got the offense. The personnel is really, really good. Even on defense, they're sneaky good. I would still pick the Ravens, though, in this one. They're a complete dominant team.
We'll move on to Cole Daly.
I think I'm taking a long shot here. Kind of been the long shot guy. You can see by the the rankings
You got to
here.
catch up somehow.
But I'm going to go with the Texans in this one. I was very, very, very impressed by just all of the throws that C.J. Stroud made in a playoff game. And here's the thing, and here's why I'm going to go with the Texans here. Not that the Ravens aren't like this, right? The Ravens have a very, very good established culture that John Harbaugh has given them. But, man, D'Amico Ryan. Is it Ryan or Ryans?
Ryans.
That's what I thought.
Multiple Ryans.
He has established a culture in there that loves to be doubted. And I don't know anybody who thinks that the Texans even have a chance in this one. And I just think I really like C.J. Stroud under center. I think that their O-line can do just enough to get them over the hump. And I like the Texans' defense. I mean, you got Will Anderson, you got Jalen Petrie, you got Derek Stingley. Like, those are a lot of guys right there. It's a long shot, but I don't care. I'm already so far behind anyways. I'm going to go with the Texans in the most because I do think they have a legitimate chance. And I think that it being at 3:30 p.m. on a Saturday is beneficial
Yes.
for our dogs down south in Houston. Not our dogs, the Texans.
I wonder what the weather is supposed to be like in Baltimore on Saturday. I don't know if it gets.
I will check.
We'll check and see. But I'm going with Baltimore in this one. I feel like that's the best pick here. Sneaky thing that Jay Cruz slightly mentioned, but the defense on Baltimore is very, very good too. They have the most sacks in the league, believe it or not. I just checked that just a little bit ago. They have 60 sacks. And Houston isn't the greatest at protecting the QB. They allowed 47 sacks this year. I think that defense is going to be able to stop.
47 sacks?
They've allowed 47 sacks this season.
Is that the highest in the league?
That's
No.
like,
That's not
let's
that
see,
bad,
1, 2, 3, 4,
Wait, no,
5,
wait,
6,
really?
7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Huh.
That's 11th in the league in sacks allowed. I thought that was surprising.
Yeah.
I'm going Baltimore in this one just because they got the MVP and I think they got the defense to stop Stroud, who's been on a hot streak lately. And I mean, I'll let Jay Cruz go.
Yeah, I have a weather report for you.
Okay.
You did ask for the weather. High of 27, winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. It's going to be a cold day.
No snow,
No, it doesn't say any snow.
precipitation.
There's a 4% chance.
That's
of
warmer than it's
precipitation.
going to be in Carbondale.
It will
Yeah.
snow on Friday, but I imagine that
Oh.
by the time that the game is played, they'll probably have the field cleared off. So I don't think snow will be a factor, but the cold definitely will be.
Well, as long as it won't be anything like Buffalo was last weekend.
For real.
So, me and Jay Cruz are picking Baltimore in that one. Cole's picking Houston. Moving on to my game. Packers against the Niners. This is my game. This is my Super Bowl for the year. If we beat the Niners, that's all I can ask for.
That would be the most poetic, incredible thing for Aaron Rodgers to never beat the Niners.
Right.
And then Jay Love to
first season starting, first shot at beating the Niners, and he does it. I mean, my goodness. What a story Jay Love has been this season. I'll get more into that in what we learned over the break, just talking about Jordan Love. But, man, he's been on a tear. You can easily say he's been one of the best players in the league the past 10 weeks. I think that's a fair thing to say. 21 touchdowns, 1 interception. Doing it with the youngest team in the league, too. I love it. I love Matt LaFleur for being able to do this with all these young guys. I don't mean to go on to a huge rant now, but we're going to go on to Jay Cruz for his pick on Packers and Niners.
My pick for the Niners-Packers game, look, I've said it before, I'll say it again. There are just certain things in this sports world that are law. They're meant to happen. The Bears are meant to lose to the Packers. The Packers are meant to beat the Dallas Cowboys, as they did last week. And you know what happens the next week after they beat the Cowboys? The 49ers smash them into the ground. And that is what's going to happen again this time. 49ers over the Packers. Also, Joey, you did forget this because you're not typically the NFL guy. We do stay the team as well. You did just do it there, and you both are playing, right? So you go ahead and do it. I'll wait till the very end of this because we're not leading with the Bears. So, but yes. Anyway, Niners over Packers. The fact that I will invoke the point spread in this game. It's like 9.5. I think a lot of times you can look at that and see that maybe this might be a blowout. So I'm gonna err on that side. Give me the Niners.
We thought it was going to be a blowout last game. And
who's we?
Well, most of America, I guess, with the Cowboys.
A blowout?
Cowboys.
No, I'm not talking like a 7-point win. I'm talking like a 20, 30-point win here for the 49ers.
It was a 7.5 spread against the Cowboys.
Right.
It's a dog eat dog world. The first dog is the Bears, and the Packers eat the Bears, and the 49ers eat the Packers.
Okay.
It's going down in San Fran. The Packers, not that they don't have a chance. They're a competitive team. I actually really like what Jordan Love has been doing. I think that with the NFL specifically, I've just been maybe the most unlucky person. I sold my J Love stock. Remember, I officially sold it on this podcast. And then he goes on to have, as Joey B said, which I don't know if I agree to this extent, but he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL up to this point. So, I think that but when you run into that Niners defense, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, it's over. I think that you guys had a fun little run, and you guys get to look forward to next year. Maybe draft a wide receiver or some other helpful pieces. But start looking at the mock drafts, buddy.
I'm thinking cornerback probably, since I'm not sure if I like the things that have been happening with Jair specifically, and we got rid of Russell Douglas early in the year. That was kind of my sign as to, oh man, we're just kind of tanking the rest of the year, and apparently we weren't.
Apparently
at
not.
The time. Apparently Jordan Love is that guy, and he's going to prove himself that he's that guy when he beats the Niners this weekend. This is the team of destiny. This is the 2010 Packers all over again. The 7th seed that is going to beat the 1 seed by a lot more than people might realize, just like they beat the Falcons that season. Packers win this one. I think it would be a beautiful story if they end up facing off against their NFC North opponent, the Lions in the NFC Championship, or Baker Mayfield, and the Bucks, the team that knocked them out in the NFC Championship a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's my pick, Packers.
Love it.
You
still lead this set. You still lead
Next
this
game,
segment.
please, Joey.
He's not used to it.
I was just waiting for a comment or something.
He's like, well, that's the only game that matters.
Next game, Bucks and Lions. Cole's Lions. I guess we can do a little bit of a state of the team here, but Bucks are coming in hot after beating the Eagles last weekend by a lot more than I think a lot of people realize. And the Lions, my goodness, they ended up coming out on top in a very, very emotional game against Matthew Stafford. That city of Detroit earned it by, sticking with the Lions all these seasons. Cole Daly, will the Lions be able to come out on top again? And they could host another game the following week.
They could. If the Packers were to upset the 49ers in Joey B's dream world, then we would be hosting them. And but here's the thing. The Lions are going to win this one. Let's not sit here and pretend like the Rams were not a very good team. I think that Sean McVay did a really, really great job with coaching that squad. And I was legitimately worried that we would get knocked off and the Rams would see themselves in an NFC Championship game. But because of this, you upsetting the Cowboys really worked out for us. We were going to have to play the Cowboys. I was not going to be very confident against them, right? They match up really, really well with our team. We match up really well against the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, the law in the NFL playoffs is, from what I've observed the past couple of years, is there's one team that's super, super hot that you should buy stock in. And then there's another team that's super, super hot, but they are pretenders. And there's usually the truly hot team and the pretenders. Truly hot team, I'm going with Texans. The pretenders, I'm going with the Buccaneers. It's Baker Mayfield at this point. Come on, guys. Let's not trick ourselves. I'm not too scared about the run game. The Buccaneers have a good squad, and Todd Bowles, he's a pretty good coach. He's a pretty average level coach in the NFL. But, the Lions beat a really, really good team in the Rams, and I think that, when you kind of get that first one in your belt, I'm a little worried that they're going to underestimate the Buccaneers, but I think Dan Campbell is the perfect guy to get these guys hungry and take the city of Detroit to their first conference title in how long?
I don't know.
Gosh.
Not that they'd win the title, but to get to the title game.
Have they gone to a conference championship game? Do we know that?
That's actually interesting.
No
I'll look that up
really
while you
don't
ask
even know.
Jay Cruz what he thinks is going to happen.
I hate to break it to Cole Daly, but the Lions are the pretenders in this playoffs. Let's to use a line that you just said. Let's not kid ourselves. The Detroit Lions have skirted by with a porous, and that's putting it lightly, porous defense, particularly in the secondary. And while the Philadelphia Eagles, completely collapsed, as I mentioned, the Buccaneers destroyed them last week, throwing the ball. They had a lot of weird drops, too. Mike Evans was dropping the ball a lot. Cade Otton had a couple of drops. They catch those. That game could have been over a lot sooner than it was. I really, really like the Buccaneers. I think they match up really, really well with their offense against the defense. I also think they match up pretty well on the other side of the ball. They have a secondary that I think you're not really going to slow down Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's just that good. But I think they can get it to a point where they have to start looking for other options. And Jameson Williams, for whatever reason, he just hasn't shown it yet. And this guy, let's not forget, was a top 12 pick in the NFL draft. He's not played like one yet. Pretty underwhelming last week. They're going to need to, if they do get Jameson Williams involved more, hit him on a couple deep shots, I do think the Lions will win this game. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to face the 49ers in the NFC Championship, which sounds really stupid. And I don't like Baker Mayfield. I don't think you like him either, Cole. I despise him. Hated him in Oklahoma.
I actually really liked him in Oklahoma.
Oh, you did like him in
Weirdly,
Oklahoma?
but I don't like him anymore, yeah. Well, it was before my college football. I really dived into that whole thing, yeah.
I understand. But yeah, give me the Bucs over the Lions. I'm picking against them again. Hopefully it doesn't bite me.
Very interesting between the two of you. I'm going
1991, by the way. Last time they made a conference
championship game. That's interesting.
Wow. They lost to the Washington, now Commanders. Not gonna
name redacted.
Name redacted.
So I'm assuming that was probably the same season, the last time they won a playoff game before this year, right? Well, yeah, they had to because the divisional round. I'm citing.
They made the Super Bowl in 1957 and 1952.
I don't even think the Super Bowl.
It wasn't yet.
They won the NFL
They just won. Yeah, they won the championship.
I wonder if that was NFL, AFL, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going more on the side of Jay Cruz. I think Jay Cruz took the words out of my mouth. I think they're an absolute matchup problem for the Lions. The Bucs have some really, really good receivers. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and their defense will be lights out in this game, I think, against a squad with Jamison Williams, who hasn't performed as well. Baker Mayfield isn't playing like what I would have thought. Like, when I think of Baker Mayfield, there's this negative connotation to it, but he's been playing very well this season.
Yeah, he has.
And he's had the wide receiver squad to do it with. So give me the Bucs in this one. I love the Lions' run this season, but I think it's, good luck next year. I think they have a good shot at getting the number 1 seed next season, maybe number 2 seed if they draft very well. But
they don't. They never draft very well. At least
if
I don't
they
like
draft.
That.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't like
and
their
the draft pick is worse this year. I do just want to mention, too, Cole Daly, that the Rams outplayed the Lions last week. They absolutely outplayed the Lions last week.
Stafford outplayed Goff, for sure.
Absolutely. The Lions scored 3 points in the second half of that game. Their offense wasn't doing anything. The best offensive drive they had was the very last possession of the game where they needed the 2 first downs, and they got it. So, again, credit to them. Like I said, St. Brown is good, but that game last week against the Rams, and then watching how the Bucs, with a better roster than the Rams, in my opinion, played, yeah. They absolutely have a better roster than the Rams. Do you want to go down the list?
Rams are a far better team than the Buccaneers are.
That's just not true.
It is.
Okay.
It is. They're
Whatever.
far better.
Let's move on.
Here's the thing. We'll obviously be able to.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out.
I'll tell you why you guys are wrong actively, because you're talking like Jamison Williams was the only other wide receiver on that team. Josh Reynolds has been a consistent guy. He's been he's been up there with Tyler Boyd in terms of guys that you can just throw the ball to. He'll catch. He's like one of the best third, not slot guys, but like third string guys.
Yeah.
And then what? We're just not gonna act like Sam Laporta.
He's
not
really
on this
good
team.
too.
He's good.
But the Rams, not great defense, shut them down in the second half last week.
What's so awesome about the Buccaneers defense?
I'm not saying it's awesome, but it's better than the Rams. And if the Rams were able to shut them down in the second half, why can't the Bucs, with the better players, guys who have actually won a Super Bowl
Vita
before?
Vea, Elijah Cansey played very well last week against a good offensive team in the Eagles.
My only thing is, like I said, we're gonna figure it out. But just remind yourselves that not every single team that makes it to the conference championship necessarily deserves it. And listen, I've been very clear to both of you guys. I don't think this is a Super Bowl winning team. I don't see a freaking chance that this team makes it. But we've got a cupcake here in the Buccaneers, and remember 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Tennessee Titans were in the AFC Championship game. So, like I said, I just think that we've basically got a walkthrough. I'll be really disappointed if they lose to the Buccaneers. I assume that if we make it to the championship, we either get killed by the Niners or we kind of have a game against the Packers. So let's just be ready. Yeah.
Very interesting takes by everyone here on that game. We're going to move on to probably the most interesting game of the weekend is Chiefs and Bills. Time, I think it's
I'm sick of seeing it.
I'm sick of seeing it too.
I don't know who to pick. It is a little bit
different this time, though.
Yeah, very different. It's in Buffalo this time. Yep. All because of that crazy offsides call with the Chiefs when they played the Bills earlier in the season. I think that call was a little bit blown up more than it should have been. But I think the Bills, have a good shot at getting some revenge on the Chiefs in this. I guess I'll start on my pick. I'm going Bills in this. I think Josh Allen proves that he can go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. And I think, we've been talking all year about the Chiefs and their wide receiver room. And at some point, it's going to catch up to them in a big-time game. It already has in big-time games against, like, the Eagles and the Bills, of course, that wide receiver room. I'm going Bills in this one, but I really think it's a toss-up. No one likes to go against Patrick Mahomes, but home field advantage is going to do the Bills really well, and we'll see how the weather affects the passing game in this too. But, yeah, I'm going Bills.
I feel very confident in my Bills selection. I view the Bills as the NBA equivalent or the NFL equivalent to the Milwaukee Bucks, where I think Josh Allen is essentially Giannis Antetokounmpo. For years, they've come up short, right? And then you kind of start to lose hope. People are starting to lose hope in Josh Allen. I think that this is the year they get over the hump. The fans in Buffalo have been waiting for a while. I think that the Bills are honestly sick of losing to the Chiefs. They don't want this to happen again. And I just don't think that the Chiefs, they're not so good to where they couldn't be beaten anymore. Like, they're just – Travis Kelce's he's gotten a little bit worse. Their wide receiver room is weak. Isaiah Pacheco, he's good. But would you say he's anything more than good?
He's a running back.
He is a running back, and their defense, which was really good to start the year, and something I was really, really high on, has kind of fallen off a cliff. You know, they've struggled with injuries, so I think this is the Bills' year to shine. I think the Bills, you know, it's very obvious that they're struggling with injuries too, and it's not like, you know, they're miles better ahead of the Chiefs. I'm not saying that this is whatever, but I think that with it being in Buffalo and the absolute hatred that I'm sure they have for the Kansas City team at this point, I think this is their year. If they want to get to the Super Bowl, this is it before things get blown up.
I totally agree. Jay Cruz.
So I left the space blank on our sheet.
He sure did.
For a very, very long time because I honestly didn't know who to pick in this game. But I like you both now to look on the sheet and look what I've put in there.
Should I announce it?
I will announce it.
Okay.
I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game, guys. And look, the reason I left it blank, not only did I not know, but I wanted you guys to convince me of the Bills because this entire week I'd been leaning Chiefs, but I still wasn't settled. And I'm like, okay, I see that they both picked the Bills. I think they're probably going to end up saying something that sways me with them because there might just be something I'm not seeing. And if you look on the sheet, it's the only game you guys agree on. So if you guys agree on it, there must be something there. Nothing you said swayed me. Pacheco is more than just a running back. That was insulting to my guy. Not my guy, but shout out Rutgers, Big Ten football.
We'll see, I guess.
Isaiah Pacheco is better than just a good running back. The Bills have linebacker issues, and I think this will be the game. And we've been saying this all year. I've been saying this all year, so hopefully I'm right this time. Travis Kelce go-off game. I'm talking like 10 receptions, 120 yards, 2 TDs. Bills have linebacker issues. I think that's also going to help with Pacheco as well. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game somewhere in the 27-10 range.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going Chiefs hard on this game.
That's a take.
Chiefs all the way. I know it's not what people want to see. It's really not what I would want to see. Like, I would honestly rather the Bills win this game because I'm all for seeing other teams in the championship. But like I always say, think with your heart, think with your head, not your heart. Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to win this game. And again, it's not what people want. It's in Orchard Park, and people think, oh, it's going to be different this time. No, it's not. Chiefs defense is elite, top 5 unit in the league. Give me the Chiefs.
What do you think of the Bills' the secondary, I guess, just in general? They've had some injuries,
does
but
not faze me whatsoever.
Not against this Chiefs wide receiver room.
Have you seen Rashee Rice play lately?
He's been good.
He's been really, really good lately. And again, I think this is going to be a Travis Kelce game, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball pretty well. Kansas City Chiefs over the Buffalo Bills. My lock of the week.
I don't think any. So, lock of the week by Jay Cruz. Me and Cole are actually agreeing on something here with the Bills. Yeah, this should be a very, very interesting lineup of 4 games. Normally we do 3, but this time it's the playoffs. We want to talk about all of them. So we're doing all 4 games, obviously, and these games are much more important now since it's the playoffs. Just to round up here, Cole's going Texans in the Texans and Ravens game, and me and Jay Cruz are going Ravens. I'm going Packers, my Packers. Cole and Jay Cruz are going Niners. Cole is going Lions. Me and Jay Cruz are going Bucks, and Jay Cruz is going Chiefs. I'm going Bills, and Cole is going Bills.
Good line, good look mix up. You know,
I mean, there's not one game we're all picking the same.
Yeah, we're not agreeing on the same game, any of us.
And it's not like 2 of us are like. It's not like you 2 are picking basically the same stuff, and then I'm the one who's being weird. We're all being a little weird.
We've all been weird.
We've all been weird today.
That's right.
I think it takes a little bit of that to get to the top spot where I've been. A
little bit of weird.
A little bit weird with your picks sometimes.
I want to look up a stat. I'm going to take the time to do this one day, maybe for next week's pod, depending on what happens in the 49ers-Packers game. But I want to see if has to be some sort of correlation between Joey's picks doing really good and the Packers winning. I feel like there is, because around that time in the middle of the season when he was really, really bad is when the Packers were like terrible.
I know I picked.
There has to be some sort of correlation.
I picked the Packers against the Chiefs that week. You guys picked Chiefs. I picked the Packers against the Lions on Thanksgiving.
Everything changed.
And the rest of the season it changed. I think there was another one with the Vikings game. I picked Packers. I think you guys picked Vikings. You might have picked the Packers that week, but we'd have to look back on it. But we'll see.
Think about it.
Very interesting how it's kind of swayed my way these past couple weeks. I'm going to start with Jay Cruz. What did you learn over the break?
Well, do you mind if I do the state of the Bears real quick?
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
No,
They float over my head. They're not.
That's rare. They're a very forgettable team. Look, I'll just address the one question everyone's asking heading in the offseason, and I don't really want to talk about it again until something happens. Do we trade the number 1 pick, keep Justin Fields, or do we take Caleb Williams with the number 1 pick and trade Justin Fields? You guys know where I stand. Look, I'm a Justin guy through and through. Will be to the end of time. That's what I would do. Trade that number 1 pick, and the draft capital you could get from that is substantial compared to what you would get for Justin. I think we could all agree on that, right?
100%, yeah.
Now, the only argument where I'm like okay with not having Justin on the team and settling for way less draft capital is if Ryan Poles, and that's really all this comes from, is I trust Ryan Poles. If he decides that Justin is just ruined and the Bears franchise has ruined yet another quarterback because of we drafted him and we probably didn't need to draft him then, and then Nagy gets fired after his first year. And then they bring in Luke Getsy, who was sent by the Packers to destroy us, and he's gone 2 years later. And now we're about to get a new offensive coordinator. Lord knows who that's going to be. I saw, by the way, we were interviewing Cliff Kingsbury today, who may not be a bad option as an OC. And, of course, as we know, he worked with Caleb Williams at USC. So if we do draft if we do take Cliff Kingsbury, it probably is a done deal that we will be taking Caleb Williams and trading Justin Fields, which will hurt a lot. I also have a lot of T-shirts and jerseys that I don't know what I'm going to do with now if we get rid of Justin. But regardless, it was a rough end to the season. Obviously, losing to the Packers again. Heard that so many times throughout my life. It doesn't really faze me anymore. It's just kind of how things are.
Do you want to know why you're drafting Caleb Williams? And you should just be ready for that mentally.
Why?
Because you can't be the GM that passed on drafting Caleb Williams.
Fair enough.
You can't.
Just like last year with Bryce Young.
Because even then it was like, oh, maybe it's C.J. Stroud, all this stuff. People have talked about Caleb Williams since he stepped foot in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And ever since that Texas game, he looked like the best quarterback in college football. Say what you will about, Michael Penix and all that stuff. USC's defense was terrible. So Caleb Williams had to take more chances. He was doing a little bit of a Patrick Mahomes impression, which is the guy he's been compared to. If you've been compared to Patrick Mahomes during your time in college, and he ends up being any sort of semblance of him, he might not pan out. I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams fan, but the only problem is the flashes are so freaking good that you can't be the GM that lost on that opportunity. Because guess what? If Caleb Williams goes to the league and he's one of the best, you know who's gone that next season? Ryan Poles. Yeah. And he's going to want to secure his job because people won't no one's going to get mad at their franchise for drafting Caleb number 1. You may not like it, but you're going to have Caleb freaking Williams, dude.
Yeah, I just don't see him as Caleb freaking Williams.
I think a lot of people
I know a lot of people do, and maybe he'll end up being Caleb freaking Williams, but
is the ceiling for Caleb Williams higher than Justin Fields?
Absolutely, yeah.
100%.
Then I think that's the
I don't think it's as high as people think it is, but it is higher. Like it's obviously a little bit higher given the arm talent, given his ability to scramble, which is also pretty good, just like Justin's is. But yeah, I'd say his ceiling is a little bit higher for sure.
I think for the Bears, who have been in so much turmoil with quarterbacks, I mean, you just have to take a risk on a guy who could be that guy in the league. MVPs we're talking here.
Yeah,
I think that's the only answer.
Like I said, I think it probably would be better because I'm not super high on Caleb Williams. I mean, I am super high, but not like is he a for sure lock?
Right. So not even you don't even think he's going to be Caleb freaking Williams then?
I'm not saying that. I think he very likely could, but here's the thing: in the NFL, you get sold on potential and how good these guys can be, and when you see the flashes that we've already seen from him. I'm looking at it purely as because think about it. Think of if he's awesome. Ryan Poles is fired the next day. If he trades away those picks and he's awesome, it's fine. But you know what? No one's going to blame him if they draft Caleb Williams number 1 overall. You can kind of mess up that pick and then still keep your job for an additional 3 years because no one will blame you. It's Caleb Williams.
I don't know that no one will blame you.
They've been talking about it for two years.
Well, here's the thing, and this last thing I'll say, and then we can move on. The Bears fan base is split. As split as I've ever seen it. It's like our country in many ways. Very deep and philosophical right there. It's very split.
First person to ever say that.
He looked off
Half the fan base wants to keep Justin and trade down for more picks. Now, there are some people within that 50% that are really doing it just for the draft picks and the draft capital and all we could get from trading the number 1 pick. Probably more than we got last year even, because it's Caleb Williams and not 5'9" Bryce Young. On the other hand,
That's my point.
On the other hand, so your point, under that logic, you would trade the number 1 pick then.
No.
What? Oh, because it's Caleb Williams and not. Okay. Anyway.
You're getting more value.
On the other side of it is the Caleb Williams people who hate Justin Fields. Like, legitimately don't want him as Bears quarterback in any scenario. They think he's terrible. And I think those people are a little misled because if you do look at the tape, you watch the games, it is clear that most, if not almost all the time, there's not much more Justin can do on this team. Given how much we lack personnel. Yeah, we got DJ Moore, but our second receiver was supposed to be Chase Claypool. We all know how that turned out. Darnell Mooney was hurt most of the year. Our second receiver was Cole Kmet this year, basically. And he's not your second receiver. He shouldn't even be a third receiver on any team.
Is he even like a top 10 tight end?
He might be like 10.
Yeah.
That's probably where I'd put him.
Yeah, right.
But, and I think those people are misguided, but the Bears fan base, legitimately, one side is going to freak the heck out, and the other side is going to be jumping for joy. And I just hope that whichever side, and I'm on one of these sides, I hope if the Caleb Williams fans that want him for the Bears, if we end up keeping Justin, go away, rescind your Bears fandom. Because if you don't want him, then you don't have to be a Bears fan. Go be a fan of whatever team Caleb Williams gets drafted by. If I have to see another person post another thing like, Caleb Williams can do this, and yet you want to keep Justin Fields, if we keep him, get out. Get out. We're done.
Very strong.
If the Falcons
Oh,
do hire Bill Belichick.
Can I interrupt you real quick? I think I'm going to say what you're basically about to say. There are so many teams in the NFL right now who would love to have Justin Fields on their team, who are going to give up a first-round pick maybe even potentially for Justin Fields. Like, that's how other teams in the league view this guy, as worthy of maybe even a top 10 pick. So is he really that bad? Can he be that bad if other teams think of him as worthy of a top 10 pick?
I don't think he's a top 10 pick. I don't think he's a first-rounder. But I think that you could, if the Falcons...
Because the Falcons were a team that I just heard a couple days ago that might be willing to trade the 8th pick overall for Justin Fields.
I would never do that in a million years. That would be
But the point is,
ridiculous.
It would be dumb and would be stupid. But I'm saying if they look at him that way, then why can't we look at him that way? That's all I want to say. Anyway, continue with your Belichick point.
I was going to say potentially the biggest slam dunk that Arthur Blank could do, Arthur Blank being the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, and we really got to wrap it up here. This is going to be a long show.
Hey, we've had a lot to cover.
It is true. Point is that Arthur Blank not only would want to make a splash in Bill Belichick, but I was going to argue that they would trade the 8th pick along with multiple other first-rounders, just like as you did with the Panthers, for Caleb Williams, because that would be the biggest splash you could make.
Yeah.
You know, for that. Because imagine you bring in Caleb Williams, you have Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. Drake London isn't exactly the biggest draw like those other guys, but he's still a good young guy. And you have Bill Belichick. Like, Falcons stadiums would sell out all next year, you know? So, stuff to look at.
Very strong opinions by people on both sides of this, and we're just not going to know the answer for
I like that he
time.
does this, you know? Yeah. We'll disagree on something and be like, people think differently upon certain subjects.
Hey, someone's got to be the moderator here.
Right,
Everyone's
he
allowed
is.
to have an opinion.
Jay Cruz, what did you learn over the break?
I have two short things here. First off, Texas Longhorns fans are the softest fans in the entire world.
And I don't want to be a part of it.
And I think you know what I'm about to say.
Yes, I know exactly what
and
you're
the two things I
referencing.
wrote down, it's over the break, but these just happened within the last couple of days. Last night, recorded this on Wednesday night, Texas basketball lost to UCF. Mm-hmm. And Texas fans, I genuinely, this makes me mad. People who don't like Texas or the team that's playing Texas will do this, horns down, and they have that. Now, Cole's he's playing, but people legitimately have that reaction. Texas fans, I don't want to go too far in saying this, but Texas fans legitimately think of this as like a hate symbol toward, like a legit hate symbol.
Yeah,
we're not talking about like.
I think you're right.
Just something playful. Like, they legit are so offended by this, and their university even put out a thing that's like, any player that does this at our games, they will be flagged for 15 yards. It's like, what are we doing here? Seriously?
Right.
That's so soft.
It is.
That's terrible.
It's remarkably soft, and Rodney Terry, the men's basketball head
How
coach.
soft?
goes up to the coaches or goes up to the players who did it and said, "That's disrespect. Don't do that." And it's like, dude, it's stupid. It's always been something stupid.
And it's been a thing for a while. Like when Baker Mayfield used to do it all the time. And anyway, the other thing I learned was that the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers, they've been known for having issues and they're just not right in the head. Well, apparently they also play college basketball. Another guy who wears the colors yellow and black right now is a man by the name of Andre Curbelo, who used to play for the University of Illinois. And he looked like he was going to be like their next starting point guard after Io left, and then he was never really the same. And then he went to St. John's, and now he's at Southern Miss, his third team in 4 years. And last night at the game, he was wearing some like oversized coat, just walking on the sideline. What the heck happened?
I don't know.
What happened to him?
I don't know. He was walking around like he was like trying to make a fashion. Moving on. I don't even know what
that was
even
weird.
About
I don't know.
Look up the Andre Curbelo.
I haven't heard Curbelo's name in years. I was trying to follow the Illini when they were projected. They were like the 4th seed in the March Madness because my parents are Illini fans. Curbelo was. I loved watching him play. Man, I forgot about him. But Cole Daly, what did you learn over the break?
I learned that some recruits actually have a head on their shoulders. Now that sounds bad, but I think that the biggest thing that bothers me, as we talked about the whole Dante Moore argument with why would you go there? Nobody does that more than college basketball high school players. And John Calipari says, "Hey, come to Kentucky. I already have 4 guards. How about you be the 5th guard and not get any minutes?"
Cam Reddish.
Now that's different because he started. We didn't have too many forwards. He's getting me riled up. Point is, this happens all the time and it bothers me a lot. And in fact, there was a potential for this to affect my team. Now, I really wanted this recruit. I think VJ Edgecombe, the number 3 player in the 2024 class, is an absolute baller. I'm a big VJ Edgecombe guy, but he has top 3 of Duke, Kentucky, 2 blue bloods who bring in a lot of prospects, and Baylor. And as somebody who wanted him, but I realized, dang, we have a lot of guards who are good, but are probably coming back next year, and it's going to be a clouded guard room. I don't want to become like Kentucky has officially became now. We're kind of growing towards that since we hired Jai Lucas. That's a whole other Duke basketball rant that I could get into in a different day. But the point is, VJ Edgecombe looked in those cameras, unzipped the jacket, and it said Baylor Bears. And I was honestly extremely happy for the kid because I think that the way his play style is, you can check back on this in a year from now, but he fits perfectly under Scott Drew in the Baylor Bears system. I think that it is going to be a slam dunk recruitment. I could see him being a top 5 pick because of his choice.
Wow.
If he ended up going to Duke or Kentucky, I would have slanted him a little bit later.
Wow.
So, really proud of you, VJ. Joey, what'd you learn?
What did I learn? Well, I think everyone knows what I learned and what most of the country learned.
You learned this?
I did learn this because I think I was out in J-Love just like everyone else was, and everyone's going to be leaving here because no one wants to hear it.
It's every week, man.
I'll be
Jordan
a man.
Love.
I'll be a man and stay.
Jordan Love.
I'm not going to say anything. But.
Jordan Love is the perfect mixture of Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. I think he is. He is absolutely. Absolutely. That's not crazy. That is not a crazy statement. That's not a crazy statement. He's a gunslinger out there. He's making throws that you use when you want to show off. He was doing that against the Cowboys.
Of Brett Favre
He's
and
a
Aaron
Brett.
Rodgers,
He is
two top 10 quarterbacks of all time.
Maybe not combination, but he has the abilities of those two guys in one.
That might be worse to say.
He is a Brett Favre that's a gunslinger that protects the ball, just like Aaron Rodgers. Me and Jay Cruz watched that game together at B-Dubs.
I know what you're talking about.
And I was wowed with some of those throws that he was making off his back foot, just kind of showing off just slightly against a really good Cowboys defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's the quarterback of the future for this Packers team, and that's what I learned. And
that's a statement. Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, that is a correct statement.
Yeah,
he's a very
definitely.
talented quarterback.
It really is.
And I think it also shows a really good notion as to Matt LaFleur being the coach of this team because he helped coach he helped coach Jordan to become this level of quarterback and getting wide receivers in the right spots for J Love to get the ball to him too. So That's what I learned about J Love. I'm really happy to say that although I left the train middle of the season, that I was wrong by leaving the train, and that he's the quarterback of the future for this Packers team.
I should not have sold my stock. I sold far too early.
Yeah.
Alrighty, folks. Well, this has been a very, very long and very, very eventful episode 15 of the Inside Sports Podcast. That is with the D-E capitalized. Once again, I'm Cole, editor-in-chief of the Daily Egyptian. This is Joey Bernard, the graduate assistant to the Daily Egyptian, to my left. And then Jay Cruz, just some guy, to my right. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. If you are listening to this on Spotify, please be sure to like this episode and follow us. And if you're on YouTube, I would really, really appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel, hit the bell notification so that you know whenever we drop an episode, and drop us a like there too, would you? That'd be real nice.